Hello, welcome to Photoshopping Methods. Today I'm going to show you how to make very dynamic eyes like you see here. I used several methods kind of put together in my own way. Over the years I've seen a lot of different tutorials. Everybody seems to have their own way. This is mine. This should work in everything from CS2 to the new CC or CS6. I'm not really going to bother with clearing the veins from the white of the eye. There are a lot of simple ways to do that. Everything from clone stamp or using the healing brush. You can also use hue saturation and lower the red channel saturation to nothing. There are a lot of different ways depending on what you are looking for. So let's begin. You will want to copy your background layer because it's best to work non-destructively so that you can always go back if you need to. So once you've done that, you'll need to select the iris. I use the quick select tool. You can also use the quick mask, pen tool, or some people like to use the elliptical marquee. Personally, I think the quick select tool does the job. It's quick and simple. You don't need a perfect selection for this because you can always edit the mask later to adjust it, and this seems to get a pretty decent job the first time around. So you'll select the iris, and you can easily edit out extra portions here that you don't want. And you'll want to get both of them. Once you have them, you will be pressing Control or Command on a Mac, J, to put them onto their own layer. That's very important so that you're only applying things specifically to the eyes themselves. At this point, what you will be doing is going into the sharpening filters for the Smart Sharpener. You'll go to Filter, Sharpen, Smart Sharpen. You'll want to keep these settings midway. You're never going to want to go too far. It'll vary picture to picture as to just how much you feel you need to do. As you can see here, it adds a lot of detail to it that just wasn't showing up well. It really helps bring things into focus. That is one of the biggest steps in this. The next thing you're going to want to do is add an adjustment layer, the curves adjustments. You're going to want to raise your highlights and lower your shadows. And you're also going to want to add a clipping mask so that this only applies to the eyes, as with everything else. I'm going to toggle its viewability so you can see how much of a difference it makes. Now, I recommend going and setting this to luminosity so it doesn't affect your colors. Also, if you feel that this effect is too intense, you can lower the opacity so that it is not so visible. For this project, I just want you to see just how far it can go, so I'm not going to bother lowering the opacity on anything probably. The next step you're going to want to take is to add a new layer. And to do that, you can just click the little icon right here, which looks like a page turned up, and you're going to go to Edit and Fill, and you're going to fill it with 50% gray. Click OK, and you're going to want to change the blending mode to Overlay. The other thing I do is I create a mask for this layer so that I don't have to worry about anything I do spilling over and affecting the rest of the image. To do that, I click on the eyes while pressing Control, and that takes the selection of them as I had it before. Oops, I'm sorry, I changed that. There we go. And you come back here and click on your 50% gray layer, and then you click the mask icon, and that allows you just to work on the eyes themselves. You'll want to click back onto the actual layer because you were selected onto the mask, And from here, you're going to want to zoom in a little more. You can do that with Alt and scroll, or you can use the magnification tool. From here, you want to take your burn tool, and I recommend making it about the size of the pupil to begin with. And you are going to want to set it up to about 50, somewhere in the 50s for the exposure. You're going to want to darken the pupil and the surrounding area a little bit. I also recommend going over the very top of the eye. It adds some shadow, which is good to add depth. You're going to want to shrink it down and go along the outer edge of the iris. Don't overdo it though. You don't want it to get like really black, because then it looks very fake, and I'm sure that's not what you're going for. You'll then shrink down to about the same size as the various lines you see in the eye, and that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to go over and create some of the black lines that you see in the iris. You don't have to follow them exactly. It's good to darken the ones that you do see, but don't limit yourself to that. Feel free to add more, because when you zoom back out, you really won't see the specific ones. So also, if you notice, they are not perfectly straight, the natural ones, so you don't have to worry about being perfectly straight coming out from the pupil. It's okay if they're a little off, that's natural. You'll want to also repeat this process with the other eye. Doing the very same things we did with that one. Darkening the pupil and surrounding area, adding the shadow to the top, and darkening the outer edge of the iris. And again, I'm going to add lines, going a little faster this time. Probably faster than you should go, but I want to make sure that this video isn't going to drag on for a lifetime. Then, what you're going to do is you're going to swap out to your dodge tool, also at around 50%. You're going to want to make it larger, and you are going to go around the middle at least once of each eye. From there, you're going to do the same thing that you did with the burn tool, and you'll go around and create the lines. Same rules apply. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to be there. This adds a lot of depth, and it really makes the eyes pop. Which, if you're watching this, that's what you're going for. That ought to do it. Now, the next step is to use a brush, completely soft and a little smaller, about the same size you used on the dodge tool, to go around the iris in the middle. You're going to do the same thing on this new layer. It doesn't have to be perfect. No one will notice. Zoom out a little bit, you can see. Then you're going to change the blending mode to overlay. You know, actually, I would like to go back. I'm not happy with that. And I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush. I wasn't happy with the size of that brush. So I'm going to raise it. I'm using the bracket keys, but you can come up here to change it, or you can right click to change it, for anyone that didn't know that. Go around them, and then again, as I said, set it to overlay. And you'll notice that that has a very strong effect. This is one that I definitely recommend taking down a bit, because it's a little too much. And there you go, your eyes have been popped, and they really stand out a lot more than they did in the original. I'm going to add all these to a group by selecting them all and dragging them to the group icon, so you can see a before and after. Now, if you remember in my original that I did, I had a little more lining to it than I did here, but that's because I took my time. I also added color. and that's something a lot of people are interested in, and everyone has their own way of doing it, like with everything else. What I'm going to recommend to you is if you come down here, right above your gray layer and under your highlight layer there, and select New Layer. From here, what you're going to do is come down to the original eye selection, press Control and click it the same way you did to create your mask there. From here, I'm sorry, you actually don't need that layer, you can delete it, but keep the selection, just stay on that gray layer and go to create the adjustment layer of hue saturation. From here, you can change all the colors, you can influence things, be different colored. I actually used Colorize, and I brought it over to a nice blue that I thought was kind of pretty. Saturated it and darkened it a little bit. Maybe that's a little too saturated, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then you're going to want to change the blending mode to color, and from there you can also adjust the opacity so you can let a little bit of the original color shine through. And if you want to keep something like these little flecks of gold that you had here that I thought were very pretty, you can lower the size of your brush and use black and adjust the layer mask to just add those right back in. And if you see that the color is going places you don't want it to outside, you can, like I said, adjust that layer mask. Just go right around the outer edge of the iris there, and it'll get right rid of it. And if you zoom back out now, you will see that you have successfully popped the eyes. This is the one I just created. This is the one I did earlier. A little different. I added a little more to it with a few more lines and smaller brushes. But this was just a demonstration. You'll be able to practice with it and see what you need to do. I hope this has been useful to you, and there should be more videos to come. Thanks for watching.